To apologize to the Russians for pronouncing these two words that I'm about to say, my goodbyes, with. My goodbye is directed to all the subscribers who are about to unsubscribe. I would like to say Das Vidania or Paka, which is goodbye in Russian. For me, teaching was like falling asleep and ending up in a nightmare. In 2011 was when my mother started having the conversation with me of, you are going to go back to school and you're going to study what I tell you to study. I did not take her seriously because I thought, you know what, I'm going to get a job and she's going to leave me alone. And when I realized that might not happen, I started conquering a different plan. And this is when I started thinking, know what? I'm going to get myself into TUT and I'm going to study further. Or I'm going to get myself into DUT and I'm going to study further. So I had a plan on how to get away from my mother's two options. But in 2012, the nightmare really, really started. I was waiting on replies from the institutions that I had applied to. And three particular institutions would be completely significant for me in 2012. My mother had said to me, you're going to back to school and you're going to study either teaching or nursing. Pick one. And I said to her immediately, there is no ways in the burning hells of the devil's Lucifer home that I'm going to study nursing. Now, I hate teaching, you know this. But if it's between choosing nursing and teaching, then, my darling, I'd rather choose teaching. But you see, I had a plan. I didn't think I would eventually actually end up having a teaching qualification. I thought my plan is foolproof. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply to as many institutions as possible. And I cannot remember like what institutions, but three became very significant. Okay. So when the chickens came to roost, is that how you say it? TUT sent me a reply saying, sorry, you have not been accepted to BTech quantity surveying. And there and there, I started thinking, wow, what? I didn't want to go to your school anyway. I just wanted to get rid of my mother. I got DUT. I'm waiting on DUT. And then DUT sends me, you are on a waiting list. And it was only about 4 years later when I had a conversation with an old friend, and I told them that DUT put me on a waiting list. I was like, oh, but that was not a rejection though. You should have just gone there and saw it through. I didn't know. And at this point, I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't know and I didn't do it. Hey, life goes on. I, the reason I say that is because I am so relieved of being away from Durban. One of the things that I've wanted to do was to not go back to Durban. And then, of course, because Lucifer, the devil in hell, don't mind my reference to Lucifer. There's this show on Netflix called Lucifer, which is like about this really very good looking white man who is gorgeous. And he plays the character Lucifer in this series. Okay. Anyway, so I then am feeling like my plan is dead. But if the schools that I applied teaching for do not accept me, then it's not a lose-lose situation. But Pietermaritzburg campus gives me a response saying that I have been accepted to B.Ed intermediate phase. My heart sank to my stomach. I felt like when you're in a nightmare and you're trying to run, but it's impossible, and you try to get into a room and you try to close the door, but the door falls. I felt like that. I felt like the walls were really literally just falling off and there were things trying to get to me. It was a nightmare. I don't think an acceptance has ever been that horrible for me. I then made the conscious decision to not tell my mother that I've been accepted. I told her that the campus that I had applied to, and which was the only one, rejected me. And therefore, I cannot go to school to study teaching. But what I will do is apply again for the following year to other schools. And my mother was, of course, okay with this. She knew that there's nothing else that could be done. And my mother's a very understanding person. She doesn't like to push too much. She likes to give you a space to make your own mind, even if you're making your own mind on something that she wants you to do, which is like so complicated and so tricky. And I hate complicated and tricky. Then, of course, I then bump into another friend of mine who says to me, no, you can study next year. Why don't you just pass by UNISA and see if you can apply? I then went to Durban and made my applications. Of course, at that time, I didn't know that I could go to Port Edward and make the application there. So I went to Durban and I made my application. It was fine for the most part. But then that's when my communication with the Department of Higher Education started. Now, this is when like my thoughts came to a halt and I realized something. I've always wanted to tell my story past like 2015, 2016, 2017, then 2018, which of course most of the year I wasn't working in 2018. And then I started working again in 2019, 2020, 2021.